Have you ever noticed this strange pattern in your life? The moment something becomes unavailable, suddenly it becomes irresistible. The person who ignores you becomes more attractive. The job you didn't care about suddenly feels like your dream once it's gone. The opportunity you could have taken feels priceless the moment it's no longer an option. This isn't coincidence. This isn't weakness. This is your brain working exactly the way it was designed to. And once you understand this, you'll never look at desire the same way again. Before we go any further, if you want more videos that explain human behavior, psychology, and the hidden forces that control our decisions, make sure you hit like and subscribe right now. It helps the channel grow, and it tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need to hear it. Now let's talk about why the human mind is obsessed with what it cannot have. Your brain does not chase happiness. It chases value. And value, in the mind, is deeply connected to scarcity. From an evolutionary standpoint, scarce things meant survival. Food that was hard to find was valuable. Shelter that was limited was worth fighting for. Mates that were desired by others signaled strength and status. Over thousands of years, your brain learned one simple rule. If something is rare, it must be important. That rule never went away. It just adapted. Today, scarcity doesn't mean food or shelter. It means attention. It means validation. It means access. And when something or someone pulls away, your brain doesn't interpret that as rejection. It interprets it as increased value. That's why when someone is too available, they often feel less exciting. And when someone becomes distant, your mind starts racing. You don't want them because they're good for you. You want them because your brain believes they're valuable. This is also why rejection hurts more than loss. When you lose something you had, your brain can process it. But when you're denied something you wanted, your brain fills the gap with imagination. And imagination always exaggerates value. You don't miss the reality. You miss the version your mind created. There's a psychological effect called reactance. It happens when your freedom of choice feels threatened. The moment someone tells you you can't, your brain responds with "watch me." Not because you truly want it, but because your autonomy feels challenged. Desire becomes rebellion. Wanting becomes a way to regain control. This is why forbidden relationships feel intense. Why unavailable people feel magnetic. Why things you're told not to do suddenly feel exciting. The brain confuses restriction with importance. But here's the dangerous part most people don't realize. The brain doesn't ask, "Is this good for me?" It asks, "Why can't I have this?" And that question alone is enough to trap people in unhealthy cycles. You chase people who don't choose you. You obsess over goals that don't align with you. You romanticize outcomes that wouldn't actually fulfill you. All because your brain is reacting to scarcity, not logic. Social media makes this worse. When you see someone living a life you can't access, your brain doesn't see context. It sees distance. And distance equals desire. You don't want their life. You want the feeling your mind associates with having it. Even in relationships, this pattern repeats. When someone gives you constant attention, your brain adapts quickly. Dopamine drops. But when attention becomes inconsistent, unpredictable, or scarce, dopamine spikes. The brain loves unpredictability. It keeps you hooked. That's why mixed signals are addictive. They turn people into emotional gamblers, always waiting for the next hit of validation. And the most ironic part? The moment you finally get the thing you couldn't have, the desire often disappears. Because the brain wasn't chasing the thing. It was chasing the tension. This is why so many people feel empty after achieving goals they obsessed over. Why they feel bored in relationships they once chased. The chase was the reward, not the outcome. Now here's where this gets interesting. People who understand this psychology use it, consciously or unconsciously. They don't overshare. They don't overgive. They don't overexplain. They create space. And space creates value. Not because they're manipulative, but because they don't center their self-worth around being chosen. Confidence isn't loud. It's scarce. People are drawn to those who don't need validation because neediness signals abundance. And abundance lowers perceived value. When someone's life feels full without you, your presence becomes a bonus, not a requirement. And the brain respects that. This doesn't mean playing games. It means having boundaries, a life, direction, purpose beyond approval. The people who suffer most are the ones who constantly chase. They reinforce scarcity in others while draining value from themselves. The more you chase, the more unavailable you become to yourself. And your brain senses that imbalance. Here's a powerful shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, Why do I want what I can't have? Ask, why am I unavailable to what actually wants me? Because often, the things chasing you don't feel exciting. Not because they lack value, but because they don't trigger scarcity. And the brain mistakes calm for boredom. But calm is where peace lives. Calm is where long-term satisfaction lives. Scarcity creates intensity, not fulfillment. Once you realize this, you gain control. You stop romanticizing rejection. You stop confusing distance with depth. You stop chasing validation disguised as desire. You start choosing instead of reacting. And when you stop chasing what runs away, something strange happens. People start chasing you. Not because you changed tactics, but because you changed energy. You became less predictable, less desperate, more grounded. Desire follows direction, not need. And this applies to everything. Money, status, relationships, opportunities. When you obsess, you repel. When you build quietly, you attract. Your brain will still feel the pull of scarcity. That never fully goes away. But awareness gives you leverage. It allows you to pause instead of react, to question instead of chase, to choose what aligns instead of what excites your insecurity. And that's real power. If this made you reflect on your own patterns, drop a comment and share your experience. I read them all, and your insight might help someone else who's stuck in the same loop. Also share this video with someone who always wants what they can't have. It might change the way they see their own mind. Most people think desire comes from attraction. That's a lie. Desire comes from uncertainty. The human brain is not designed to rest in certainty. It gets bored. It drifts. It looks for tension. And nothing creates tension like not knowing where you stand, not knowing if you'll get what you want, not knowing if something is slipping away. That's why the mind keeps replaying unanswered messages. That's why it obsesses over conversations that never got closure. The brain hates open loops. When something is incomplete, it keeps running in the background, draining your focus and emotional energy. This is the same mechanism used by casinos. You don't get hooked because you win. You get hooked because you almost win. The brain releases more dopamine from anticipation than from reward. And when you want something you can't have, anticipation becomes constant. You're stuck in a loop of hope, doubt, fantasy, and frustration. This is why some people stay emotionally attached to someone who treats them poorly. It's not love. It's neurological conditioning. The inconsistency keeps the brain engaged. The unpredictability keeps the desire alive. And the absence creates value that doesn't actually exist in reality. Here's something uncomfortable but true. The brain doesn't fall in love with people. It falls in love with patterns. If a pattern is calm and predictable, the brain labels it as safe, then boring. If a pattern is chaotic and uncertain, the brain labels it as important. And importance feels like attraction. That's why toxic dynamics feel intense. They activate the nervous system. They keep you alert. And your brain mistakes emotional stimulation for connection. But intensity is not intimacy. Intensity is stress. And over time, stress destroys clarity. This is where many people get trapped. They believe the strongest feelings mean the strongest bond. In reality, the strongest feelings often come from instability, not compatibility. The brain is reacting to threat and scarcity, not genuine alignment. Now let's talk about ego, because ego plays a massive role here. When you can't have something, it doesn't just affect desire. It affects identity. Your brain starts asking dangerous questions. Why wasn't I chosen? What do they have that I don't? What's wrong with me? And now desire is no longer about the object. It's about self-worth. At that point, getting the thing becomes proof. Proof that you're enough. Proof that you matter. Proof that you didn't lose. This is why rejection can feel humiliating, not just painful. The brain ties external outcomes to internal value. And once that happens, walking away feels like admitting defeat. So people keep chasing, even when they know it's unhealthy. Not because they want the person or the outcome, but because their ego wants resolution. But here's the truth most people never hear. Closure does not come from others. It comes from understanding your own patterns. The moment you realize that your desire is being fueled by scarcity and ego, not genuine connection, the spell starts to break. Awareness doesn't remove the feeling instantly, but it weakens its grip. And this is where power shifts. People who are emotionally grounded don't rush to fill silence. They don't chase clarity from chaos. They don't beg for attention disguised as honesty. They observe. They pause. They let others reveal themselves through behavior, not words. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is information. When you stop reacting, you see things clearly. You notice who shows up without being chased, who respects boundaries without negotiation, who values consistency over drama. And suddenly, the things you couldn't have don't feel as valuable anymore. Because your brain is no longer starving. Most people live in a state of emotional hunger. They want validation, reassurance, desire, significance. And hunger makes everything look attractive, even poison. But when you feed your own life, your purpose, your discipline, your direction, you stop craving what's unavailable. You don't need distance to feel excitement. You don't need chaos to feel alive. This is why people who are focused, self-respecting, and internally fulfilled become naturally attractive. Not because they try to be, but because they're not searching. They're moving forward. The brain respects forward motion. And here's the final shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, why do I want what I can't have? Ask, why do I ignore what brings peace? Because peace doesn't spike dopamine. Peace doesn't create obsession. Peace feels quiet. But quiet is where growth happens. The brain will always chase stimulation if you don't give it meaning. And meaning comes from choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term intensity. When you stop feeding your mind scarcity, it stops manufacturing desire out of absence. You begin to want things that align, not things that run. And that's when you regain control of your emotional life. If this resonated with you, drop a comment and share what pattern you recognized in yourself. Awareness starts with honesty. And share this video with someone who keeps chasing unavailable things. It might help them break a cycle they don't even realize they're in. At some point, awareness is not enough. You can understand the psychology, recognize the pattern, even predict your own reactions, and still fall back into the same trap. That's because the scarcity loop is not just mental. It's emotional. It's physical. It lives in your nervous system. Your body reacts before your logic does. The moment something pulls away, your chest tightens. Your thoughts speed up. Your focus narrows. That's not desire. That's threat response. Your brain is reacting as if it's losing safety, even when nothing essential is actually at risk. To break this cycle, you don't fight the feeling. You interrupt the pattern. Most people try to think their way out of desire. That never works. Desire is not a thought. It's a sensation. And sensations pass when they are not fed. The first shift is this. Stop making immediate moves when you feel emotional urgency. Urgency is the signal. Every time you feel the impulse to text, chase, explain, prove, or seek reassurance, pause. Delay is power. Even a few minutes creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, the spell weakens. Scarcity feeds on speed. The slower you move, the less control it has over you. The second shift is internal validation. This sounds simple, but it's rare. When your brain ties worth to external outcomes, every rejection feels like loss. You have to retrain it. You do that by measuring yourself by behavior, not results. Did you act with self-respect? Did you hold your boundary? Did you stay aligned with your values? If yes, you won. Even if you didn't get what you wanted. This rewires your reward system. Now your brain starts associating calm, control, and dignity with success. And that changes what you're attracted to. The third shift is removing fantasy. Fantasy is fuel. The mind fills absence with perfection. You imagine how it could have been, how they might change, how different it would feel if things worked out. None of that is real. It's projection. Whenever you feel pulled towards something unavailable, ground yourself in facts. How do they actually behave? How do they actually treat you? How do you feel after interactions with them? Not during anticipation, but after reality sets in. Desire collapses when fantasy is replaced with truth. The fourth shift is building non-negotiables. People without standards chase feelings. People with standards choose alignment. When you decide what you will not tolerate, scarcity loses leverage. You stop negotiating with inconsistency. You stop romanticizing disrespect. You stop hoping someone will become who they've already shown you they're not. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. And filters protect your nervous system from chaos. The fifth shift is direction. A mind without direction chases stimulation. A mind with direction doesn't have the bandwidth. When your days are structured, when you're progressing towards something meaningful, emotional scarcity loses its grip. You're no longer hunting for excitement in people or outcomes. This is why discipline is attractive. It signals self-sufficiency. You don't need unpredictability when your life has momentum. And now here's the most important shift of all. You stop asking, how do I become desired? You start asking, what do I desire that actually serves me? This flips the dynamic completely. Instead of reacting to what withholds, you choose what aligns. Instead of chasing intensity, you choose stability. Instead of needing to be chosen, you choose. And the irony is, this is when attraction becomes effortless. Not because you learned tricks, but because you removed need. Need is loud. Clarity is quiet. People feel it. When you're no longer driven by scarcity, you don't try to convince, impress, or prove. You show up grounded. And grounded energy creates trust. Trust creates connection. And connection lasts longer than intensity ever could. You will still feel desire. You will still notice unavailable things. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. The difference is now you won't be controlled by it. You'll recognize the signal. You'll pause. You'll choose differently. And over time, your brain rewires itself to crave peace instead of chaos, consistency instead of confusion, alignment instead of adrenaline. That's not settling. That's mastery. If this series helped you see yourself more clearly, leave a comment and share what shift hit you the hardest. And share this video with someone who keeps confusing desire with instability. Sometimes one realization is enough to change a lifetime pattern. When this psychology enters relationships, everything becomes clearer. Most dating problems don't start because two people are incompatible. They start because one person is operating from scarcity and the other is operating from choice. And the moment that imbalance appears, attraction quietly begins to die. Scarcity shows up in small ways. Over-explaining, responding too fast, needing reassurance, adjusting boundaries just to keep someone interested. None of these behaviors are wrong on their own. But together, they send a message to the nervous system. I need this more than you do. And need kills polarity. Attraction lives in contrast. One person leaning slightly forward, the other steady. But when both lean forward out of fear, tension collapses. When one chases and the other retreats, desire spikes, but stability disappears. This is where people get confused. They think attraction means emotional intensity. In reality, attraction is emotional safety combined with curiosity. Without safety, intensity turns into an. Healthy relationships don't feel like emotional roller coasters. They feel calm, consistent, and grounded. But calm feels unfamiliar to people conditioned by scarcity. So they mistake peace for boredom and go looking for sparks in places that burn them. This is why some people sabotage good relationships. Not because they don't care, but because their nervous system associates love with chaos. When things feel stable, they unconsciously create distance, pick fights, or seek validation elsewhere. Their brain is chasing a familiar pattern, not a healthy one. In dating, this shows up early. Someone pulls back slightly, and the other person overcorrects. They text more. They give more. They invest faster. And instead of increasing attraction, they remove mystery. They remove space. And space is where desire breathes. Connection needs room. This doesn't mean being cold or unavailable. It means being paced. Responsive, not reactive. Interested, not attached. Present, not needy. The strongest position in any relationship is not being desired. It's being able to walk away with dignity. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. When you know you'll be okay either way, your energy changes. You listen more. You observe behavior instead of words. You stop projecting potential and start seeing reality. And reality always reveals alignment faster than fantasy. Boundaries are tested early in relationships. Not through big betrayals, but through small moments. How someone reacts when you say no. How they respond to your time being unavailable. Whether they respect consistency or push for access. People who want control push against boundaries. People who want connection respect them. And here's something most people miss. The right person does not require you to shrink, chase, or perform. They meet you where you are. They don't make you prove your value. They recognize it. If you feel like you have to earn basic respect, you're already in the wrong dynamic. Scarcity makes people negotiate with red flags. Clarity makes people walk away early. And walking away early saves years. This psychology also applies to communication. Silence doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes it means processing. But constant silence followed by bursts of attention is not depth. It's inconsistency. And inconsistency creates emotional addiction, not connection. If someone only shows up when they feel like it, believe the pattern. Patterns are truth. Words are optional. A healthy relationship doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't punish you with distance. It doesn't reward you with crumbs. Consistency is the real flex. And here's the final realization. The moment you stop trying to be chosen, you become choosable. Because you stop giving your power away. You don't chase attention. You don't fear loss. You don't cling to outcomes. You show up as you are, grounded and self-contained. And that energy changes everything. If this part made you reflect on your own dating patterns, leave a comment and share what you recognized. And share this video with someone who keeps confusing attraction with anxiety. Sometimes clarity is the most attractive thing of all.